Hi there. I am the CRM Ninja, and on today's episode of the Oops Factor, I have Daniel Christian. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Hi, thanks for inviting me. I'm excited, and I'm just glad that you got me in and just have a just fun discussion. So I was excited.
Brilliant. Well, I'm excited as well. In fact, I'm also slightly jealous by your background because you have all those wonderful conference caps there.
I do. So I finally spent some time kind of sorting them out. Like my wife says, I may have a slight fetish with all my caps, and she said if you're going to keep it, add it to your props. So I finally, set that up. I'm glad you noticed it because I was hoping somebody would notice it, but it's just one of the fun things that I like to do is just some props around to, just make things a little bit more exciting.
Props are important. In fact, my background is another one of the things you'd like to do. And for viewers who are wondering why my head seems to be floating in a seasonal lit up house, I understand that you enjoy putting lights up on your house.
I do. So I have one of those hobbies where I put up holiday lights, but I do it in a musical style. So the lights actually dance in series of a music. It's called Music Holiday Lights. I started doing that about 7 years ago, but I would say last 4 years is where I went big time. The technology that I use, they are smart pixels. They're LEDs, but they're really smart. Each of them have a chip, so I can get any colors out of it. And then the controller, controller is from a company called X Lights. It's a company called Falcon. And then X Lights is another software. So this is not where you go to a store and just buy the out of the box thing. You buy them in sections. The lights, I have to solder them myself to get to the proper chips. So I usually start my planning around August. I get feedback from neighbors about what songs they would like.
Some positive feedback.
So it's usually one of the first things people say, "Man, Daniel, your neighbors really hate you." I was like, no. I am, in good relationship with my neighbors. One of the things I do is I make sure that they are happy, and all of us are pretty much our families are same age, kids are same age. So from Monday to Thursday, the lights, they start at 6 in the evening. That's when it's usually dark by then. And then they end at 9 in the night. On Friday and Saturday, they end at 10 in the night. And then it is not unlikely to have anywhere from 5 to 8 cars parked outside my house. So I just keep an eye on that as well. Just make sure that they're not blocking my neighbor's driveway or.
You're a local attraction.
So the local newsletter over here in our Charlotte, North Carolina area, they have the Christmas lights, the cheap Christmas lights list. And there's actually 10 of us now who do this. My city is fairly big, and there's 10 of us who do this type of friendly thing. And they've been putting our houses up on their websites and on their newsletter every year now for the past 4 years. So and I have my own Facebook page as well, so people will go and post stuff over there. But one of the things I tell people is that you want to make sure that you and your significant other are 100% in agreement, because this can break relationships. We sit at our dining table and I'm like planning for, okay, this is what we're going to do. These are the lights, my wife is just very particular, very meticulous on design, and it should look good. So I, put everything up, I design everything, but how all those chords should run so that they blend in with the green, she handles all of that piece. She's really good at that. So as long as I can get everything done, she can handle that piece. But it takes 2 days to put all the lights up.
I'm not surprised.
I build my own sequences. Just with the so many interracial people in our neighborhood. I'll put lots of Bollywood. I put traditional Christmas, contemporary Christmas. I'll put mixed songs. So
can you actually hear the music when it's playing?
So that was the next thing. So I have a transmitter. It's an FM transmitter. It's not a long range, so it's as long as you're in my street, your car can pick up that channel, and so people just come in and then they tune their radio to the FM transmitter that I have. That way, I don't have to have any blasting music.
I was wondering about that, because even if your neighbors, appreciate the lights, having music play, for
Yeah.
hours on end, could get a little annoying. But FM transmitter, that's really cool. I remember I used to have a mobile phone with an FM transmitter. So back in
Oh,
the days before iPads and iPods
yeah.
and stuff, and I used to have it on my phone. And whenever I would go abroad, I would rent a car and I could just play my own playlist.
Hmm. It's a fun hobby. It's very challenging. It takes you outside it takes me outside my comfort zone. There are things I've just never done with these type of things, like how the software talks to the hardware. These
Right.
chips, how do they work? The when you build it in the software called X Lights, it'll look perfect on the software, but then when you imported that into this hardware and it plays, it's like, wait, this is not what I saw on the computer. What happened? And you start troubleshooting it. I also have my first aid kit because these lights can burn off. And so I have a first aid kit, which is immediately go ahead and you have this lock systems to solder quickly. Like you strip it and it sits soldered. So I can cut it off, put it back in. But these are smart lights, so if one of them breaks, it doesn't stop the whole thing. But that one will be a little bit off. So like
Wow.
I've just been learning as I go along, and that's one of the things I like to do is step outside your comfort zone, no matter what it is. If it's a
That is
sport you want to
important.
play with that sport. If you want to try something else, try it, because when people like us, we work hard, but we also play hard, and that's one of the things I like to do.
And we like playing with technology,
Yep.
which is really great. So going from seasonal lights to music to the Oops Factor, what do you have to share with us today?
Wow, Oops Factor has been, gosh, a bunch of things. I can talk about, so one of the first one was my first big conference I spoke to was Ignite. I think it was 4 years ago.
Okay.
I was talking about Power Apps. I did a session on Power Apps, building apps from scratch, use Patch. I know, it was one of the popular topics over there, but I started seeing people signing up for my thing. It's okay, it was, 400, 500, 800, 900. And then
Whoa.
at one point there was up to 1500. I think the exact number was like 1600 or so.
Amazing.
And all of, I think 1100 showed up then. And it was all I could see was the first 2 rows. And the first 5 minutes of my session was just chaos. Like the words were not sitting properly. I just could not get the whole rhythm going. And I could just, it's like, and then I stopped at one point. I just took a deep breath, and then I was able to just, go in. And I was confusing Power Apps with Power Automate. And then once I just, looked at my screen and saw, okay, I was good. So I'll never forget those first 5 minutes, because I literally wanted to throw up right before the session when I saw the people.
Yeah.
But that was my biggest session. So that was that Oops Factor about just, getting comfortable with that large audience. But after I was able to deal with that amount, everything else was just pretty straightforward. Other Oops Factors would be, I was in a session I forget when it was. I know some of my other friends were there too. And I just started talking, didn't realize I was on mute. And I just wasted like 10 minutes of my time, and this was like pre-lockdown, right? Like right now in lockdown, everybody would get us, oh man, you've all done it, mute and everything. Well, this was pre-lockdown. So at that time it was a big mistake. But those were the big Oops Factors that I've had. Actually, other than that, especially when I do live demos, things just don't work. You might have the demo gods against you. And that's when it's like, I'll just tell them that, hey, I'm going to do my best. If it doesn't work, I don't, good tips I've heard from other professionals is just don't waste too much time dwelling on something not working. Just move forward and pick up on the next topic. Yeah.
It's what technology is like. But I happen to know that obviously you are well known for talking about technology, but you weren't going to do technology at all in the beginning, weren't you?
I wasn't. So in my history, also let me step back a little bit more. I was actually from the age of 3, I started having seizures.
Okay.
In fact, I did a video on from epilepsy to MVP. If you go to my channel, you look it up. It was I recorded that video when I actually had electrodes on my head. That's a different topic. So I had seizures, and at that time we tried different things. We just could not find a cure for that. Long story short, I had made the decision that if I can't find a cure for it from other doctors, I'm going to find the cure. So I pursued medicine.
Okay.
In fact, the undergrad, along with my computer engineering degree, I was also pursuing. I did my pre-med at that time. So gosh, when I graduated, I had, a double major, engineering and pre-med, and I had like minors and everything: physics, chemistry, math, biology. They took me 5 years to
Wow.
clear my undergrad, but what happened was my engineering GPA, because of in computer engineering, was a 3.75, and med schools want a perfect 4.0. And even I took the medical college admissions test. At that time, we are going almost 15 years ago, like the national average was 27, 28 on the MCAT medical college admissions test. I scored a 31, and I still couldn't get into medical college.
Ouch.
And so I had to make the decision because I was graduating from college. I was engaged. And my wife, we were like, we're going to get married very soon. So I pursued to take that college again. And colleges, medical schools called me for interviews, just wouldn't let me in. And so
Hold on.
that's
They
why I
they
said, okay, if
they
I'm
knew
not
of your
getting in,
scores
what was
and they were
that?
calling you for interviews, but they wouldn't
Yeah.
let you
So
in.
exactly. I was very optimistic because I got the interviews too. They would, that itself was a big deal. Is that, hey, you're getting called by the schools I had applied to. And it's very interesting that I'm a believer. So God had a great plan for me.
Yeah.
I tried to push a door which He had already locked hard, and I tried to really push it, but He slammed that door shut. But it's paid off really well because I have been very successful in my engineering. And one of the things that happened was my wife went into medicine. She went into specifically into neurology and spinal rehab. She was a nurse, a lead nurse. So when we would sit on the dining table and she would talk about her day, I would actually understand everything that she says. And so that was a pretty neat thing. Anyway, fast forwarding that, when I moved to this city, Charlotte, there were actually a medical facility here that specializes in these things. I went through a lot of lots of medical tests, and they said I was a good candidate for surgery. There was only a 70% chance of that, so we went through all the tests. Ultimately, it was a two-stage surgery. They took
Okay.
off up to 2/3 of a full-size egg. That's how much they took out, and they said that was actually something was
Hold on.
almost like a slight damage that happened ever since I was a little kid.
You're saying that they took out. Can we
They
be
took
specific about
out.
where from?
So on the left side of my head, right in the back area, there is a section of the skull, and I was born with that skull area, had a dip in it. It was malformed, that section of the skull. And because
Okay.
it had a dip in it, some of the brain kind of seeped into it. And that irritation was what's causing the medications, what's causing the seizures. And that
Oh,
makes sense because a
wow.
lot of medications out there were for very specific type of seizures, but mine were not. So medications really didn't work well on me.
So they sort of did
Now,
brain surgery on you.
yes, it was a two-phase brain surgery. The first section was they actually cut off a big section and they would take it off and they put electrodes on the area, which they were pretty sure that that's where the seizures are coming from. So they put the electrodes on the brain, and I stayed that way for 3 days. I have no recollection of those days at all. No recollection.
Okay.
My wife, she used to, and at that time I was a systems engineer, so I did a lot of servers and things like that. And my wife just said that for the 3 days, all you talked about was some servers IP address isn't working. Like that's all I could talk. I could not communicate very well at all. Um, so I personally have no recollection of those 3 days at all. But by the end of the third day, they knew exactly what the problem was, and they went and took out that 2/3 of an egg. I mean, it's funny because every time now when I speak or do workshops, like I'm teaching someone Power Apps or something,
Yep.
my opening statement is I always say that each of you in this room have more brains than I do. And everybody like, what are you talking about? I said, no, literally, you all have more brains than I do. And I go over this path of my surgery, and I end with, if I can do this, you can do this. Because remember, you have more brains than I do. And I explain
Wow.
that to people. Anyway, I digressed. So they took out that much brain, and then the only thing I had to do was go through speech therapy because when they cut off that much section, what connects your speech,
Yeah.
mechanics of your speech to your long-term memory was actually disconnected. So I could look at, something, and I could say, that's a house, it is, it's well lit, but I could not tell you that's Christmas lights. Like it's in my head, but it would not come up to my mouth. So
Got it. Okay.
And so I had to go through speech therapy for that, and I pretty much recovered in 6 weeks after it, and I'm just pretty much back to normal. And the key thing is I've been now seizure free for 11 years. I haven't had a single seizure. Yeah. That was true blessing, and just interesting way of how God has worked into my life, that he never let me pursue the medical field that I wanted. He had a plan for me already, but it's just, sometimes our plan doesn't match his plan, but his plan is perfect.
The old phrase, how do you make God laugh? Tell him your plans, or man plan, God laughs, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. So it's interesting. I mean, I've it's just that pursuing of it that I've come through, of how long I've have to suffer with that. And then so now I just tell other people is that, enjoy life as you have. And then for me, I've given a second opportunity in my life. I literally have a second life now. And that way I make the most of it. I have 2 kids, a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. They keep me busy, my wife and my family and all these other activities. I could not have done any of this if I was on seizures. I was taking heavy medications. I used to take 3 seizure medications. I would get drowsy pretty fast. I would have to sleep a lot. It also slowed my thinking down a little bit. That's why my college years were a little tough. In fact, schooling itself was tough because, excuse me, I would, it would slow me down, where if the average person would learn something, say in 5 hours, it would take me 6 hours, because I would just have to repeat it again. I'll never forget, I prepped for a test, and I was a little nervous, and nervousness can trigger seizures. So when I was nervous that morning, had a seizure, forgot everything I learned, everything. And so I failed on that test. But we went and spoke to the professor, and he said, no, I completely get it. I know Daniel. You can retake the test. I'll give you a week. And then we did. I took the test, and I aced it. So
awesome.
That type of, like never giving up attitude is something that has worked really well, because once I was seizure free, I still had that same mentality of working hard, because I had to work hard just to be normal. Now I'm continuing with that working hard, style that I have, but I've been getting really good at things like I do, like Microsoft 365 in general. So it's all those, the past was not easy at all, but it paid off. It paid off really well.
So let me ask you this. So many people have a vision of what they want to do or where they want to go, and try and go towards it and such. And sometimes, I've known in my own life, you've just mentioned one of yours, you can be so frustrated you don't get it, you're trying to open a locked door. What would your one, if you could give people in general, your most important piece of advice about how to deal or cope or handle such situations, what would it be?
I would say pursue your dream, but have a backup just in case. When I was pursuing my dream, I pursued medicine, but my backup was my computer engineering degree. So, but I didn't give up that easily. I couldn't get in the first year of medicine. I tried again. And so don't give up that easily. And you will know very well, and however you pursue that, I have a faith in the Almighty. So after a while, I knew that, hey, that's not the direction. You might have other ways to, perceive that. But very soon you will know that, okay, this is not the plan I have for me, but I'm glad I have a backup plan ready. So that's the key takeaway, is definitely pursue your dreams and give it your 110%. Don't be like, well, I tried, it didn't work. Now try it a few more times. And just like we talked, my door was slammed shut. So no matter how much I banged into it, it just wouldn't open. And that was a good sign. And I have, my parents at that time, a couple of other people, like, this may not be the one for you, but you're really good on the engineering side. And, look where I am right now, just because of how I had my plan, backup plan, and I was able to pursue that. And so that's the advice I would give, is go for it. Just have a backup plan.
Wonderful. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing those really inspiring stories and that very important message.
All right, awesome. I was really glad to be here. Thank you for bringing me on.
It was wonderful to have you on. Viewers, we hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Feel free to check out the rest of the Oops Factor playlist, subscribe to the channel, and take a look at the blog. And if you would like to come and share your own story, hit the link in the description below, put in your details, and I'd love to have you on the show. But above all, have a wonderful day.